$760 billion the United States spends on our military budget every year. We spend $40 billion on our State Department budget. And within the State Department, there's something called the USAID. And the USAID is long-term development and humanitarian assistance. And in addition to that, also within that $40 billion budget, is less than $1 billion that's spent on peace-building measures. I think a lot of people aren't aware really that peace-building efforts are as sophisticated a set of expertise as is military prowess. And in many cases where it is exercised, it takes just as much courage. What are the statistics here? The statistics are the following. There are 4 factors which, when present, statistically indicate there will be a greater incidence of peace and a lower incidence of conflict. And guess what they are? Because I don't think they're going to surprise anybody. Number 1, greater economic opportunities for women. Number 2, greater educational opportunities for children. Number 3, reduction of violence against women. And number 4, the amelioration of unnecessary human suffering. We should see large groups of desperate people as a national security risk. Desperate people do desperate things. You lessen human despair, and guess what? Your community's more peaceful. You lessen human despair, and guess what? People thrive. People become educated. There's more money. There's more peace. We know this. This is written into our hearts. Are we so afraid to say that? Large groups of desperate people should be seen as a national security risk, whether it's in a corner of our cities or another corner of the world. And the women of the world should rise and insist on this. That's what our foreign policy should be based on, that which would lessen human despair. Desperate people do desperate things. Desperate people are more vulnerable to ideological capture by genuinely psychotic forces. All public policy, both domestic and international, in all of our countries, as we shift from this economic to a humanitarian bottom line, should be built around that one core principle of what would help people thrive. But can we really allow ourselves to look in the mirror here and face why it's not happening now? It's not happening because it's the same reason we don't have universal health, because there are more corporate profits in sickness than there is in health. And it's the same reason. Why do we spend so much more money on preparing for war and so much less in comparison on waging peace? Because there is less corporate profit on a short-term basis in peace than there is in war. It is time for us to be real here. Most women in this room have read books like The Sociopath Next Door. And we've attended seminars and we've read books. And we know that if you're dating a sociopath, you don't let him do that to you. You don't let a sociopath do this or a sociopath do that. All that a sociopath is someone who has no empathy. A sociopath is someone who has no sense of moral responsibility to anyone other than themselves. So if you have an economic system, a virulent strain of capitalism, and I'm not anti-capitalist at all, but this is a virulent strain of capitalism that has been so dominant in our country since the 1980s. It has corrupted our government. It has hijacked America's value system. Short-term profits for corporations has become our new false god. Whether it's health insurance companies or big pharmaceutical companies or gun manufacturers or food companies or chemical companies or oil and gas or defense contractors. First we make sure we have a government that has been so corrupted by this that it does more to advocate for short-term corporate profits than it does for the health and well-being of our children, for the health and well-being of ourselves, of our loved ones, of other people in the world and the planet on which we live. Who is going to intervene if not us?